Hello, and thank you for checking in to the Neutral Zone Hotel, an unapologetically left-leaning podcast exploring hockey at its best and worst. My name is Alex, my pronouns are she, her, and I'm so pleased to welcome you to the Neutral Zone Hotel. We do apologize, we are having a bit of a rubber rat problem this week, but luckily a few of my colleagues are firmly working on taking care of that and making sure that your hotel experience will be plastic rat free. Starting with,
hey, this is Benjamin. My pronouns are he, him. I'm a Montreal Canadiens fan out of Ottawa, and I really don't want us to get the reputation as the kind of hotel where we firmly work on things. So maybe you want to watch your phrasing there.
Yeah, I probably should have actually written down what I wanted to say for that intro.
Nah, when do we ever?
Listen, we don't have hourly rates, no matter what John keeps saying.
Hi, everybody. It's Trevor. My pronouns are he, him, the hometown Canucks fan. My internet is finally back, and I'm on pest control because, hey, if there's one thing Canucks fans are good at, it's rounding up a whole lot of ne'er-do-wells.
Hi, I'm John. My pronouns are he, him. I'm a Florida Panthers fan. I live in Buffalo, so I was not at the game last night, so I would just like to take this opportunity to boo Gary Bettman. Boo!
Yeah, congratulations to the Panthers fans for actually, understanding the job and booing Bettman. He got a few cheers for the cheap pops, but the boos were constant, and it's good to see that tradition has returned.
All right. Well, we've mentioned it already, but the big news of the week is that the Stanley Cup Final has concluded, and Florida has defeated Edmonton in a 2-1 in a honestly quite thrilling Game 7 to take the series. The Conn Smythe went to Connor McDavid in a losing effort. John, you're the Panthers fan. Go.
Oh, what am I going on? The win, Connor McDavid.
What are your thoughts and feelings? What is your big takeaway? What did you like to see the most? I'm just letting the Panthers fan talk.
I've got the swear jar warmed up here.
Eric, skip ahead.
Holy fucking shit! I actually couldn't bring myself to watch all of Game 7 last night. We were watching cricket in my house. The T20 tournament's on, and when it hit the middle, the break in the cricket game, I pulled the score up, and I'm just like, oh, it's Panthers are up 2-1. It's the end of the second period, and then the cricket immediately went into a rain delay. So I'm just like, all right, I'm gonna pull this up on my iPad and watch it all the way for the cricket to come back up. And my wife left the room. And did not watch it with me. I watched the whole third period with the sound off. At which point, at 0, I yelled, "Oh my God, they did the thing!" And she came in, and we watched everybody skate the cup around.
Yeah.
For I don't know, however long it took. The cricket's on in the background. We're sitting there watching this on my iPad, watching Kyle Ekposo and Roberto Luongo with the cup. Beautiful thing.
Sorry, can you repeat that last bit again?
Roberto Luongo with the Stanley Cup.
Florida Panthers special assistant to the GM, Roberto Luongo, with a Florida Stanley Cup.
Doesn't matter.
That's right.
Doesn't matter. That man deserves his Stanley Cup, and he got it. I am a happy boy.
They couldn't win it when he was playing, and I was hoping they could win one while he was still on the staff.
Mm-hmm. As a neutral, I think Alex summed it up. That was a fantastic Game 7 to watch. And yeah, stoked for a lot of the players, a lot of the fans. John, you first and foremost. Shout outs with that said to our couple Oilers friends. Hi, Jess. Sorry. But yeah, just watching Okposo getting it and that $500,000 I'm sure doesn't help. Someone I saw pointed out how Ekblad got it. So the first overall pick in that draft hands it to Reinhart, who was second overall, hands it to Bennett, who was fourth overall in that same draft. So that was cool. Oliver Ekman-Larsson kind of hurt, but that's just a bitter pill. But yeah, it was cool.
Speaking of that, I saw some confusion about the the order of the cup being handed out, other than Bobrovsky getting it right from Barkov. It was Barkov, Bobrovsky, OEL, Kyle Poso gave it to OEL, who gave it to Dmitry Kulikov. And the thing to note here, all the old guys got it first.
Mm-hmm. As it should be.
Like they passed it all to all the old guys, and that includes Bobrovsky, who's 35.
Yeah. I mean, Tkachuk can get it to like the 12th player, which is kind of surprising, but yeah, it's the best way to do it.
Bobrovsky went first, and I thought that was appropriate. And then, Poso and a lot of the other old guys. So that's the right way to do it. And good job, Sasha Barkov, on recognizing that the guys who waited the longest should have the chance to put it up there first. This is a team that could easily win another cup over the next 2 to 3 years. Most of their forwards are going to be under 30 for the next couple of years. The only player who's at risk of really aging out is Bobrovsky. And I think it's pretty clear he's probably getting ready to head out to the fjords, but that's okay. Congratulations to the Florida Panthers. And my thoughts on the series are it was one of the best finals in memory. Better than the last finals to go to Game 7, I thought. That would have been Blues Bruins. Certainly a better Game 7 where everything felt, was on the edge, and the Panthers really ground out that last period.
Oh my God.
Like they just fought tooth and nail to push the pucks to the outside, and every time, Connor McDavid was on the ice, Sasha Barkov glued himself to McDavid. And we've now learned that McDavid's playing through an abdominal injury that's likely going to require surgery.
Wild.
Which is probably why he was a little bit limited in the last couple of games. But that shouldn't take away from Barkov shutting down McDavid completely in 3 games out of 7 in this series. Even though McDavid did go hog wild in 2 of them and pulled them to the last game, like Barkov, I think really, really showed that he has his worth as the best defensive player in the NHL. That being said, I do think that Connor McDavid deserves the Conn Smythe. You break a Wayne Gretzky record in the playoffs. You get your team to Game 7 when they were down 3-0. And that game is close going into the last 10 minutes. You deserve the Conn Smythe.
Yeah, that gets into something I wanted to talk about or ask you guys real briefly. I completely agree that Connor deserves the Conn Smythe because the Conn Smythe is a trophy for the most valuable player of the playoffs. Therefore, in theory, you want to take account the whole playoffs. So the fact that he broke a Wayne Gretzky record over the course of the playoffs is a pretty good argument that he was the best player across the course of the entire playoffs. With that being said, if there was a trophy specifically for finals MVP, the way that you have in some other sports, who do you think you would give it to? Would it still be McDavid?
It still has to be.
I probably would give it to him because the man had 11 points. And even though he got shut out in 3 of them, 11 points is nothing to sniff at, especially in a cup final. Maybe Bobrovsky, although I think his performance in games 4, 5, and 6 maybe writes him out of it. But when he was on, playoff Bobrovsky is real, and he can hurt you whether you cheer for him or against him.
Yeah.
So if I am a regular person, I give that award to the same group of people I would have voted for the overall playoffs, which is McDavid, then Barkov, then Bobrovsky. That would have been my ballot. If I am a homer journalist from the city of Edmonton, I put it down as McDavid, Hyman, and then Bouchard for some fucking reason.
Jim Matheson, is that you?
Oh my goodness.
So if we're just...
I hope that all those Edmonton's writers' planes got very, very seriously delayed on the way home because I know how much it hurts them to have to fly back to Edmonton from
I'm sorry.
Florida.
Mark Spector put down Stuart Skinner. Stuart Skinner, who lost the crease at
He
one
wasn't
point.
even the only one. There was another person who voted Skinner too. It's absurd.
Absolute insane homerism. This is like Seth Rohrbach level for the Penguins.
So
homerism.
hold on. Seth Rohrbach is an insane awards voter. He's not a
absolutely
homer
insane
awards voter, in that his insane picks are rarely homer picks.
But like,
so he's the Seth Rohrbach of homers.
Yes.
It's just I can appreciate that. You know, like, look, man, everyone knew Connor McDavid was going to win it. You were going to get your homer pick. You didn't have to put Bouchard and Skinner on your fucking ballots. Like, have some integrity. Realize that another team exists and that Sasha Barkov and Sergei Bobrovsky did a huge amount of work to get the Panthers where they were. And yeah, they didn't have the offensive flash of McDavid, and we should reward offensive flash because it's what the league needs. The amount of press this game got in mainstream publications, New York Times, CNN, BBC, there were some new hockey fans made last night. That's really cool. And they should be, getting into it and enjoying that sort of tense atmosphere. And we should be rewarding offense. But just don't be so friggin' pathetic.
So
to go back to your point about making some new fans, in one of our another Discord server that I know a couple of us are in, one of the other members was talking about how he invited a whole bunch of his friends over who they weren't hockey fans, but they were down to watch Game 7. They were hooting and hollering the whole time. Like, you might have no skin in the game, but you can at least appreciate a fun game, a good sport, and maybe get something out of it.
I mean, I would have appreciated it more if I was a neutral fan. I would have watched the whole game. It's not just the third period.
One with the anxiety.
I never would have made it through 3 periods. I still have to go back and watch the replay of the first 2.
If Montreal had made it to Game 7 against Lightning in 2021, you couldn't have pulled me away from that TV set with a Mack truck. Absolutely not.
That was me in 2011, and I mean, if you want to count a second round, that was me this season against Edmonton. So
yeah. So I don't know. It was a hell of a series. I think it's going to go down as one of the best Stanley Cup finals of the Cap era. The only ones that I can think of that were up there would be the second Penguins Detroit series.
Yep.
That one was really, really good. I think it was Nashville Penguins went to 7. Or am I making that up?
I thought both the Penguins wins were 6.
Might be.
Both the Penguins wins were on the road, or all of the Penguins Cup wins have been on the road.
Yeah.
Wow, they really have been.
Vancouver and Boston went to 7, but I didn't have the same feeling about that one that I did about this one.
No, like
as
a biased fan, this was a better series than Vancouver Boston for sure.
I was pretty sure going into that one, Boston was winning it. Tim Thomas was unbeatable the back half of that series.
Yeah, thanks for the reminder.
Yeah. Fantastic series. Congratulations, John, and all Florida Panthers fans. I don't know. The other thing I want to say is this is an incredible outcome for the game of hockey because it is good for hockey when these non-traditional markets win a Stanley Cup. We've seen the success that brought to Tampa Bay. We've seen the success it brought to Raleigh. We've seen what Vegas is like. LA, Anaheim. These teams are all very successful. San Jose and Nashville had competitive teams for years. Florida didn't. Florida had that cheap cup run in 96, and then they were very bad for a long time. But they brought in a great owner, who brought in good management, brought in the right players, and Gary Bettman's Southern Vision, once again, I think there's going to be people who hopefully they get an arena that's not in the swamp. But other than that, that championships are how you ingrain yourself in a city and in a culture. So the Panthers, I think, are going to be all the better for it. And that's good for hockey because almost certainly some kid who watched that game is going to grow up to be in the NHL. And that's going to be really cool when it happens.
I just want to say on that, when I moved to South Florida in 2006, the team was terrible, had been terrible. And we started going to games because we liked hockey and quickly ended up with half-season tickets that then became full-season tickets the next year. And there was a hardcore of people that showed up, but that arena was, anywhere between a third and 2/3 empty on a night, depending on the night of the week and who was there. Like if it was a Monday night game against the Thrashers, no one's there. Like I would skip those games and I'd already paid for them because they were just bad. There's bad games. And like they literally gave away tickets to the games at Miami Subs. You could go to Miami Subs and buy a sandwich and get a free ticket to a Panthers game because they were just desperate to get people in the building and like get them to buy concessions when they were there because no one was buying tickets other than like the hardcore freaks with season tickets.
And snowbirds.
Well, there was hardcore freaks with season tickets. A lot of them were honestly transplanted Rangers fans. Like, a big thing you used to see besides besides the snowbirds, like when we had half seasons, the couple that sat in front of us were from Montreal, and they were there wearing Panthers gear every week, except when the Habs were there. But you used to see like on the concourse, there'd be like couples walking around wearing Rangers gear with their kids in tow, and the kids are all wearing Panthers gear.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was for years. And then, the Habs and the Leafs would come to town and the place would be full of road fans because, tickets are insanely expensive in those places. And to go from that to like that building last night, full of Panthers fans, hardly any Oilers fans. There were some, and there always are. There's always road fans, but that's just, it's amazing. Like that's not, at all what it was like when I left in 2012. When I left, the team had just made the playoffs for the first time, and I think it was 11 seasons. They tied the record, the one that Buffalo has now smashed through. The Sabres have just blown that record out, and they made the playoffs for the first time that year and lost Game 7 to the New Jersey Devils. I was there, very drunk.
24. That was 24 seasons was their playoff drought that they broke that year. And something to remember. Sorry, they have a playoff series win drought. It was 11 seasons without making it, 24 between wins. So if you're sitting there and you are a fan of the Buffalo Sabres or the Ottawa Senators or the Columbus Blue Jackets, first of all, sorry. Second of all, it was worse in Florida for a long time. So you can get through this too. Yeah, like, I don't know. I'm a huge fan of what they've done. And you could tell looking at that, the whole last few years in Florida, they've built a legitimate fan base in the middle of a swamp in a place that is the literal poster for the summer. Yep. And if you can put hockey there, where's next? Other than Utah. We know Utah's next.
Atlanta. A bit of a shout to a guy whose name we haven't mentioned yet.
Not Quebec City.
Paul Maurice, who gets to cap off maybe not cap off, but add to an incredibly lengthy and honestly not quite successful career with a Stanley Cup win. So good for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Paul Maurice, the losingest coach in NHL history. No coach has lost more hockey games than Paul Maurice. But he's also a Stanley Cup champion, and you could tell in the interviews last night it means the world to him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he had the best lines, and the one where he was talking about, I get to show my dad that the names that have on the cup are now, Howe, Richard, Beliveau, and now Maurice. That's pretty cool. Good line. He seems like a good guy. Mid-coach, good guy.
Yeah.
And I did kind of enjoy his little pander to his old team in Winnipeg, saying that he hopes they win the next cup.
Mm-hmm.
But, sorry, I just want to quickly go back to one thing. Sorry, John, when did you say you moved to Buffalo?
Well, I moved to Buffalo in the end of 2017.
Oh, okay.
I left Florida in 2012 and I moved back to Syracuse.
So what you're saying is when you leave is when Florida makes the playoffs, and you going back to New York is what causes Buffalo to miss the playoffs.
Buffalo, we missed the playoffs for a while by then.
No, I was still in Florida when the Panthers made the playoffs. Okay. I was at that game 7. I was literally in the box.
Okay.
One of my friends bought a box for that game 7. We were literally in the box next to New Jersey's Brass. We were like watching Lou Lamoriello as we were getting increasingly drunk on my friend Keegan's whiskey.
All right, so I can't blame Buffalo's current playoff drought on you then. Sorry, Sabres fans. I tried.
You have to blame that on the terrible management.
Fair.
It's the same thing that you can blame Florida's long drought on: bad ownership and bad management.
Absolutely.
A couple notes that I want to make that we kind of move past a good point in the conversation for me to bring it up. The last game, or the last period, the third period, McDavid and Draisaitl and company were on the ice for like at the very least half of the ice time. And honestly, probably more. They were put out there at every opportunity. And for the first 19 minutes of that period, they were scary. They were terrifying. But you got to that break and play when the Oilers called a timeout and got ready to pull Stuart Skinner. Way too late, honestly, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
They came out that timeout and the energy was gone. Florida dominated that last minute of play. Which led to a rather anticlimactic last 15 seconds, but a really exciting previous 45 seconds.
Connor McDavid played 25 minutes 42 seconds last night.
Jeez. Again, with like torn abs.
He only played 7.5 minutes in the first. I remember they highlighted that.
Yeah, it's they leaned on their best players, and it nearly got them there. But it didn't.
Yeah.
And as
it says here, McDavid played 9:56 in the third last night.
Jeez.
So half the third. Yeah.
Was maybe the best game 7 that you could have asked for. A true spectacle for all the eyes of the hockey world to be on, which means it's the perfect time to news dump something. As the other major hockey news of that night came out at midnight on Stanley after the cup had been awarded, or midnight Eastern time after the cup had been awarded, as Alex Meruelo announced that after the land auction that he was planning to bid on was canceled by the land trust after they found a zoning issue. Meruelo announced that he is forfeiting the rights to the Coyotes, and he will not be moving forward with any plans to build an arena.
So to be completely clear, they didn't find a zoning issue. Meruelo's people screwed up and assumed that the previously approved plan for a 3,000 person seated venue for like a rec center type thing would also allow them to build an 18,000 person NHL quality arena and entertainment venue, which it turns out, now I'm not the lawyer here, but it turns out those are not the same things.
No, an entertainment district is not the same thing as a rec center.
Oh, well, good thing we have John here. So
not how zoning works generally.
So the reason I phrased it like that is because I genuinely think that this is something that the land trust discovered the discrepancy at the last minute. When honestly, it's definitely something that Miracle Development and the Meruelo should have been aware of, and they probably were. They were just hoping it wasn't going to be an issue. It's probably something that the land trust should have caught sooner. But it didn't, and it threw a last-minute curveball in Meruelo's plans, and Meruelo's plans were already to the point that they could not afford to take any more delays, any more brooks. The specific nature of this meant that it was going to be at least another year or so before he could even get started anywhere else, because none of the other all of the other options would have had to have him go through the local and state governments again, and those processes take time, and time is something.
And everyone hates him.
Yes, and everyone hates him. And time is something that he doesn't have, despite having a 5-year timeline. That timeline is actually pretty tight when it comes to the construction and the acquisition and construction of a stadium. And basically, as soon as it hit a hitch, it was over. And now the NHL has been rather gracefully freed from its biggest headache.
If Alex Meruelo wanted a franchise in the NHL, he could have paid some people to check the goddamn paperwork.
Yep.
But I mean, realistically, you have to think that maybe they're not sending their best at this point, because look, I'm just going to be honest. This is the exact sort of thing that derailed them out of the old arena. What was
Gila River?
Gila River?
Gila River?
Yeah, Gila River.
It's not that they were owing them that much money. They only owed like $1.5 million in fees, which is, for an organization of this size, an arena of this size, absolutely nothing. It's pennies. What happened was Glendale wanted an excuse to get them out because they were crap tenants and because they weren't making any money, and they waited for an excuse and got rid of it. You're telling me the government couldn't have worked with Meruelo to resolve these issues once they were uncovered? No, they could have. They chose not to because he's a piece of crap and they didn't want to do anything with him. So they found a reason and went, oh, look, you didn't cross your I's, you didn't dot your T's. And again, like we said, it's a rec center is not an entertainment district. But you're telling me they couldn't have made that work? Government will grease wheels when they want somebody to do business there. This is a big FU to Meruelo saying, we do not want your business. You have made yourself persona non grata yet again. And as a result, the Coyotes' dream for now is dead.
Yep.
And lawyers can fix stuff like that for you, or they can help you to fix that. But this guy stiffs everybody. I'm sure he stiffed his lawyer, so he's using some cut rate guys that aren't good enough to be able to, get an unlikable guy through this process.
Yeah.
So Donald Trump does it.
It's exactly how he does it, yes.
So the specific individual responsible for checking this is no longer with the organization. However, his role was replaced by Alex Meruelo Jr., who, well...
the social media genius.
Yes.
That's right.
So it's honestly not a surprise that the turnaround between this issue being brought up, the auction being canceled, and Meruelo just walking away is so short, because that 5-year timeline is deceptive in how forgiving it seems, but he's done. We don't have to worry about him again.
And the timeline wasn't forgiving, though, because I know there were landmarks in
Yes.
it, and I think he had to have land sometime this year. So,
Yes.
I mean, that's the thing. He had to hit milestones, and if he's not going to hit this milestone, then he's just toast.
Yeah, no, I've seen a few people are only aware of that like 5-year period as opposed to the specific benchmarks that he had to hit.
I guess he'll just have to take his $1 billion in cash and use that to comfort him.
Well, he's going to fuck off to Reno with his AHL team and apparently build a casino there.
Yeah, and they're building a 10,000 person arena in Reno. Okay. Reno. 10,000 person arena. And yeah, good for him. Congratulations. Enjoy having the Roadrunners in Reno, the Reno Roadrunners. The Roadrunners Reno.
I'm pressing X to doubt that actually happens.
Well, look, it's Alex Meruelo. Are you telling me he's not trustworthy and he's got a history of getting these things done, Alex?
Yep. That is exactly what I'm saying.
Alex is band together, I see. No, you know what? There were Coyotes fans, quite a lot of them. More than people, I think, realize. And I feel for them. Not only did they lose their team, it's like dead. And there's a possibility the NHL returns to the market down the road and gives whoever goes in there the Coyotes name, just like the Jets got the Jets name. But man, what a stinky feeling it must be to see your team plowed under like that.
Just to point that out, Craig Morgan, who's basically the Arizona hockey beat guy, in his reporting, he basically said that according to Bill Daly, once Meruelo walks away, Phoenix is going to be treated equivalent to any other NHL expansion candidate. And that because Meruelo is walking away, the branding does revert to the league. So it's very likely that if Phoenix gets a team again, that we're going to see the Kachina again. The bad news, ? Is that the most likely guy to be a sports owner or to be the owner of the new Phoenix hockey team, just because he is the current sports owner of teams in Phoenix, is Matt Ishaba, the owner of the Phoenix Suns. And if you're looking for someone who's going to be a smooth, drama-free, competent ownership, he's not your guy.
No, I would think not.
He has been, the Suns have been a mess since he took over. So just a fun thing to note. And with that, I think we're going to go ahead and head into our break. But before we go, we're now available on YouTube at Neutral Zone Hotel. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave comments. I've been assured that SJ does indeed read every one of them. You can also follow us at Neutral Zone Hotel on Instagram or Blue Sky. And please join our Discord at neutralzonehotel.com/Discord. It's a real fun place. We have some good times. We like talking hockey there. If you like this episode, please rate us 5 stars on your podcast platform of choice. We'll be right back.
So it turns out that last week's lightning round was a bit of a bust. I've got a few retractions to read through here. It should only take a few minutes. Anaheim will not, in fact, be trading its entire second line to the Flyers for a case of tasty cakes. The Calgary Flames will not be rebranding as the Calgary Rough Riders. The Edmonton Oilers did actually not win the Stanley Cup, so no correction needed. The Los Angeles Kings will not be playing any home games in China. We were misinformed. The San Jose Sharks will not be relocating to Eugene, Oregon. The Vancouver Canucks will not be buying popular hockey website hockeybuzz.com. The Chicago Blackhawks will not be... Any insinuation by this podcast that the Colorado Avalanche are looking into trading for Jeff Skinner is wrong, and we apologize. The Minnesota Wild will not be renaming the team to the Minnesota Mild. The Nashville Predators will not be opening a Preds-themed strip club on Broadway. I'm hearing that the St. Louis Blues are not actually going to trade all of their draft picks for the next 5 years for a decent goaltender. The Utah Hockey Club will not, in fact, be hiring Alex Meruelo Jr. to run its social media. We're sorry for the inconvenience.
Welcome back, everyone. As much as this last week has made it seem, the NHL is not the only top-level pro-American Hockey League.
What?
And the new cycle of the PWHL has continued moving forward as we have moved deep I don't necessarily know if deep's the right word there, as we have moved into their free agency period and we've seen some interesting movement. Benjamin, you want to tell us about it?
Yeah, so PWHL free agency has opened. Obviously, this is the first real free agency period for the league. So during this period of time, not only do teams get to sign players who are not currently signed with other teams, they also are now allowed to negotiate with their draft picks from this year, most of whom have not yet signed. So it's been interesting. Quick summary of the situation. Boston has extended multiple players from their existing lineup, most notably Lexi Agia, Hannah Brandt, and Sidley Morin, but has not signed any free agents, nor have they signed any of their draft picks. Minnesota has signed 2 of their draft picks, Klara Himlarova and Britta, I'm not a transphobe, I have gay friends, Curl.
Ew.
They also extended Michaela Kava, Liz Shapers, and Denisa Krizova, which I think is pretty good. They lost Britton Fleming and Sophia Kunin to retirement, as well as Natalie Darwitz to the nonsense we talked about previously. Montreal, they signed Lena Youngblum, who was one of their picks from last year. Re-signed Elaine Chuli, Amanda Boulier, Maria Chiapple, lost Melody Daoud to retirement, and then brought in Kayla Barnes. New York has only extended Abby Levy as their backup goalie, and a lot of the action is happening in Toronto and Ottawa. So Toronto signed Daryl Watts, who was probably the top free agent available, to a 2-year deal that brings in one of the top 10 scorers to probably play top line minutes in Toronto and replace Natalie Spooner as she recovers from her knee injury. They brought in Emma Woods from New York, both of whom were signed to 2-year deals. They signed Julia Gosling's 6th overall pick. Now, what's really interesting about PWHL Toronto is both Watts and Woods received invites to Team Canada's training camp. Woods, I think, was her first ever. Watts, her first in several years. And of course, the GM and coach of Toronto are also the GM and coach of Team Canada. So there is some questions as to whether or not this is coincidental. Ottawa was able to extend Zoe Boyd, Aneta Terlova, Natalie Snodgrass, and it's been reported they've extended Mrazova as well, but not officially announced. They signed Alexa Vasco and Rebecca Leslie out of Toronto and signed free agent goalie Logan Angers. That could be Logan Oniers. I don't know. But I mean, I'm going to assume her name's Angers because that's a great hockey name. So, yeah, she's 6 foot, man. She's taller than I am. I would not screw with her.
Can't teach size.
Can't teach size. That's right. So it's been interesting. The biggest news, of course, being the Daryl Watts move, and whether or not that speaks to PWHL Toronto using Team Canada connections. Playing for Team Canada brings upwards of $100,000 American a year in bursaries. So you can take less money to play for Toronto, but if you're going to make Team Canada, you're going to make bank.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
you kind of get that. You kind of get that prime real estate to show what you're made of. Like, obviously, as you covered, they've already got the invites, but just in case they need that extra incentive, you're kind of incentivized to go play for Toronto, unfortunately. So makes sense.
I mean, I don't necessarily think it's unfortunate. I think it's actually kind of bullshit.
Oh.
So
I only say unfortunate because that means playing for Toronto.
No,
we all know how we feel about Toronto.
I say it's unfortunate because I think it's brutally unfair.
Yeah.
Team USA's GM and coach are not GM and coaching in this league because they're employed by USA Hockey full time. And a lot of Team Canada coaches, assistant coaches, are elsewhere. Courtney Kessel for Boston, Corey Chevry in Montreal. But, like, let's face it, if there's a situation where they're saying, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, come play for Toronto, that'll help you make Team Canada, that should not be allowed. And if that's what, Kingsbury and Troy Ryan are doing, and if there's any evidence of it, they shouldn't be allowed to coach in the PWHL. I think that's pretty straightforward.
Yep.
I don't think you would allow NHL coaches, like John Cooper's been named the coach of Team Canada. I don't think that Gary Bettman would look very kindly on John Cooper calling up, free agents and saying, hey, if you come play for the Lightning, I'll help you make Team Canada. Pretty sure that both he and the PA would be furious about that. I don't believe it should be, especially in the PWHL where the finances are way lopsided. Team Canada bursaries for a guy like Steven Stamkos, not terribly important.
Yep.
But for a player like Daryl Watts, other than the fact that her daddy is a rich corporate lawyer in Toronto, that's a huge difference.
I mean, the other thing, too, is I think we kind of saw the writing on the wall with Watts in free agency because in the postseason, there was a couple interviews and she was very curt in her interview. Like, she gave a vibe, at least to me, that she was going to be open to moving somewhere, like looking for everybody. She wasn't going to be satisfied with just like, well, yeah, no, I'll stick with Ottawa if they offer. It's just like, nope, I will listen to everybody, but I'll probably be moving on. At least that was the vibe for me. So I don't know about you, Benjamin, because I know you've got obviously the most skin in the game when it comes to PWHL Ottawa.
I would say that she made it pretty clear she was not happy that she was drafted in the 6th round by Ottawa, even though that means everybody else passed on her a bunch. And it was pretty clear she wasn't happy that she started on the 3rd line in Ottawa, even though she probably would have started on the 3rd line everywhere. And my honest opinion is that Daryl Watts just wants to be the star. And you know what? I can respect that. But if it's true what Ian Kennedy is reporting, which is that Watts turned down more money in deals from Boston, Montreal, and Ottawa to go to Toronto on what is almost certainly a low money deal. Like I said, if that is doing that with basically an assurance that you do this, you're going to Team Canada and making $100,000 from Hockey Canada's coffers. Like that's tampering.
Well, especially too, because as you mentioned, it's not just a 1-year deal that she's doing that low money thing for. It's 2 years. So,
yep, through the Olympics.
But how's it tampering when the league owns all the teams?
Well, I mean, how isn't it? How is it tampering when the league owns all the teams? I don't know. But you would think that they would want to to pretend it's fair to entice external owners when they do decide to sell the franchise. I just think it's something is rotten in the state of Newmarket.
All right, yeah. In other non-NHL news, the Calder Cup wrapped up this week. Hershey beat Coachella Valley in 6. I think this is something that SJ has a bit to say about, and so we'll revisit this when they're back.
All I really have to say on it is kind of cool. I got to see the Calder Cup championship team in live this year.
Yeah.
But
the big thing for me is that I don't know how many players on the Bears are going to the Capitals. Obviously, Hendrix Lapierre is going. The Coachella Valley, their coach is going. Shane Wright's going. Riker Evans is probably going. They have a ton of players moving up, but they also have a ton of talent coming in. So Coachella Valley, next year it could be the same thing again. They could be restarting, but that's a lot of valuable experience in young players that's coming up to the NHL next year. And I think it would have been great if Coachella Valley knocked off the Bears. The Bears are titan right now in this sport at that level, which is why it was cool, Trevor, that we actually got to see them lose.
Yeah.
They only lost 12 games in the regular season.
I think it was 12 regulation and 5 or 6 OT shootout. So not a common thing, but I think that if you're a fan of the Seattle Kraken, you should be really excited for the talent, and hopefully Dan Bilsma, whatever his fucking name is, hopefully he is 100%. He's improved from his last coaching stint in terms of player management, and he's ready. Because I would hate to see an old cranky coach tank a young, promising roster.
Yep. All right. Let's get through. We had in the past week several I think, rather interesting trades. Some of which
goalie season.
Yeah, some of which I have express like secret memos from the NHL saying that they were done for the express purpose of making us look bad immediately after we recorded and before we released last week's podcast. It's amazing. Well, it's amazing the machinations Gary is capable of. But
damn you, Gary.
We had several really interesting trades. Let's start with the goalie trade. As Markstrom was traded to the New Jersey Devils for Kevin Ball and a top 10 protected first. Quick thoughts?
Good for the Devils.
Yep.
Good for the Devils, but I bet you they really wish this had happened like 4 months ago.
Craig Conroy is, I made excuses for him at the deadline. This is inexcusable. He should have their first round pick this year. They shouldn't have next year's pick. That's, if Markstrom is supposed to do it, it could be like a 25th, 26th overall pick. And Ball is a nobody. So you're replacing Jakob Markstrom with a late first in the draft. They should have pushed for this year's pick. And if Jersey didn't want to give it up, they should have told Jersey to pound sand.
Yep.
Can't wait for Calgary to suck next year. Let's go.
Yeah.
It's one thing. It's one thing to suck. It's another thing to suck and stockpile second-tier draft picks and prospects to do it.
Yeah. Craig Conroy's tenure as a GM has not been promising in terms of the return he's gotten on the trades of these premium players.
But have you considered he played for the Flames?
I'm just gonna be completely brutal and say their analytics guy literally died last year. And you're starting to see that they don't have a good grasp in that room of player value. So, like, obviously, I'm sure they're missing Chris Snow because of his. He seems like an incredible guy and an inspiring figure, but like, apparently nobody listened to him when he was talking about analytics stuff because I'm worried that room is stupid.
It's an NHL front office. Of course, they're stupid.
Yeah, and that's fine. But like, when your analytics guy literally dies, and you all of a sudden stop being able to value players appropriately, maybe you need to hire another analytics guy or figure something out because the show goes on.
All right. Also on the goalie trade, coming in just before puck drop of Game 7, Linus Ullmark was finally traded after a couple years worth of speculation to the Senators of all teams for Jonas Korpisalo, Mark Kastelek, and a first-round pick.
Yeah, so really great, nicely done, Trevor. Trevor just put on his Ottawa Senators hat. really good work from Steve Staios. Strong asset management for sure. They used a pick that is late first. That is actually Boston's pick that they got through multiple trades, ended up in Ottawa, and now it's back to Boston. So they still have their high level pick this year. They got rid of a depth center type guy that's just going to cost them some money they don't need to spend. They have tons of guys like that in the pipeline. They get rid of 75% of Jonas Korpisalo, which for Boston gives them cap certainty on their backup goaltender for the next 3 years, which I think, given that they're probably going to have to open up the bank a little bit for Jeremy Swayman, I think that's probably value for them. Ottawa is getting in return 1 year of Linus Ullmark. Just one. And he's already told them that he's not going to sign an extension. He will play the year and see how it goes. So there is a level of risk here from the Senators. They have not, in recent years, impressed free agents who came to them via trade. DeBrincat wanted out. The rumor is Jacob Chychrun wants out. So if Ullmark wants out, you're 3 for 3 of big trade acquisitions over the past 4 seasons. past 3 seasons actually, and who don't want to stay in the city. That's not good for your ability to build a team.
Mm-hmm.
The only person who has said yes to this team is Claude Giroux, and that's because he lives here. He lives in Ottawa. Yep. Other than that, I think it's a gamble worth doing. Yeah. But people are saying, "Oh, Ottawa had a big steal," and it's like, they might have given up a ton of stuff for 1 year.
I think getting out of most of Korpisalo is definitely valuable. Whether that balances it out enough, especially if Ullmark leaves, is still to be determined. Because at the very least, if you still had Korpisalo, you have a goalie.
I think retaining on Korpisalo is fine because it's only going to be $1 million for the next 3 years. It helps out both teams. It helps Boston make that cheaper. As Benjamin alluded to, it allows you to re-sign Swayman. Especially for those 3 years. It just kind of gives Boston a little more depth on the back end, and their defense can probably help Korpisalo look better than he actually is. It'll be really interesting to see if that goaltending really is kind of the final piece that can get Ottawa over the hump, or if it's just going to be a case of, hey, Ullmark, you're still really good, but it turns out we still stink because the rest of our roster has too many holes in it. And it's also not to say that Ullmark is going to be fantastic immediately, because he's had great years in Boston, but look at his prior stops. He wasn't great in Buffalo prior. He had good numbers, but bad team, bad results. Again, as Benjamin alluded to, it's a big risk, and I'm glad Staios took it, because it's nice to see someone really willing to just take that gamble, take that risk, go balls to the wall, and be like, all right, we got 1 year, let's try and figure something out. We'll see how it pays off. I like it for both teams, and I do like it more from Boston's perspective than I think a lot of people do. So,
speaking of balls to the wall,
I don't hate it. It was fun.
Our last goalie trade is one of the most wild and fun trades, especially since it is a 1-for-1 Pierre-Luc Dubois to the Washington Capitals for Darcy Kemper.
Oh, I laughed so hard when I saw this one come down. Holy smokes.
Good for the Kings. Get rid of that guy.
If you're the Kings, it's simultaneously very heartening and very disappointing. It's heartening because you don't have to pay or play Pierre-Luc Dubois. It's disappointing because I think you probably wanted to exit this offseason with more confidence in who you've got in goals than Darcy Kemper. Darcy Kemper, I think, is a big upgrade because I think he gives you league average goaltending, which they need. That if they didn't get it from most of their guys last year, and certainly not consistently, but I think you want to swing higher than that. For Pierre-Luc Dubois, it's an interesting bet for Washington. At the very least, he's a center. He can theoretically pass the puck, and by all accounts, Los Angeles did not use him well. He was not a good fit for what they were trying to do, which, considering that he was their big pickup, they traded an entire third line for him, is everyone on call is just making a big oof face. So there's a good chance for a rebound. There's an equally good chance that he drops off further because Pierre-Luc Dubois is the baby with bad vibes.
If you're a Los Angeles Kings fan, I don't really know how you can maybe look at it as a temporary win because you're out of that PLD contract, but it was also just a mistake to begin with. So it's like, I don't know, giving away all the black licorice jelly beans you have when you bought a whole bag of them. Apologies if you like black licorice jelly beans. I personally think they are disgusting, so this is the analogy I'm going with. But Kemper is a fine backstop. Yeah, he's got a ring. He's not great, but LA's defense is fine. They play a structure that'll help him. I know I've asked this before. I can't remember. Is Talbot signed beyond the season, or is he a UFA? Okay, so he's a UFA.
Like 4,000 years old.
Yeah, well, he was still relatively fine this year. I could see them signing him for like one more year and running with a tandem with them.
No, he's not signed. Big Save Dave is a year on his contract, the $1 million buckaroonies.
Yeah, no, pass on that. But what I think is really interesting about this trade is how it gives Washington kind of more of an excuse to say, hey, we still have a potentially competitive team. We can still take another couple cracks at this. While Ovechkin, like, we're going to go and get Ovechkin this record. We all know that this is their game plan, but at least they can make the false facade that we're competitive and we're going for it by making a move that helps our forward depth and, you know, as Alex said, a player who can pass the puck, probably to Alex Ovechkin. Like, when I first saw the trade, I was flabbergasted. Like, what are they doing? But having time to sit back and think, I can kind of see it kind of as like a wily kind of move for that reason. Just, it gives Washington another few years of, oh yeah, no, we can keep going. If we're fine, we're not bottoming out yet. Don't worry.
And in 6 years, when they're still paying him $8.5 million to be mediocre.
Mediocre's putting it real generously.
I want to push back on that because he wasn't mediocre this year. He was bad. He had 40 points on an $8.5 million contract, which seems like a lot, right? Seems like a lot. Hold on a second. I'm just pulling something up on Money Puck. How many of those do you think were primary assists?
5.
Okay, what was his stat
10%.
line?
He was 16, 24, 40.
I'm gonna go with 6 primary assists.
No, it's not that bad. 15 primary assists, which is good for a third line center in the NHL. So, like, look, man, it's possible that he shows up, Alexander Ovechkin goes, "You're a new Nick Bäckström now. You give puck to left dot. Ovechkin shoot puck go in net. Ovechkin break record, you drink wine." Like, that's possible, and that's what happens. So Alexander Ovechkin shows up and he puts in 35 pucks next year, puts in 35 pucks the year after that, okay? That's great. He's got the record. Alexander Ovechkin's contract is up after next year. He retires. He goes to the Hockey Hall of Fame. There's still 5 years on that Pierre-Luc Dubois contract at $8.5 million.
You know what else there will be 5 years on at that point in time?
Tom Wilson's contract.
The Tom Wilson contract.
Yes.
Yeah. So I am sorry. Brian McClellan should be fired into the sun for bringing this guy in. He is 1, a whiny bitch. 2, a notorious locker room cancer. And 3, has forced his way off of not 1, not 2, but 3 NHL teams. And you think that you're the magic sauce that's going to make it work?
That's right.
I'm not sure how much he forced his way off the Los Angeles Kings versus the Los Angeles Kings.
He played his way off the Los Angeles Kings.
Yeah.
And this option was more attractive than buying him out, even if he had been eligible for the cheap buyout rate. Because Darcy Kemper is only 3 years and you need someone to play goalie.
Yep. If you found a trade partner for him that involved you taking less salary back over a shorter time frame, you absolutely do that every time over a buyout.
Like Luke Robitaille and Rob Blake, they went out and got absolutely fucking hammered after this, right? Like they did shots of the expensive tequila. There's no way they didn't.
Our friend Nick said, described this as the best move Rob Blake has ever made as the Los Angeles Kings GM, which is maybe the harshest indictment I can imagine of the work that he's done.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane to me that this was that he found a buyer. Absolutely insane.
One last
I
trade.
couldn't believe they signed him in the first place.
One last trade that I just find interesting is the Detroit Red Wings have traded Wallman and a second-round pick to the Sharks for future considerations.
Yeah, so Jake Wallman was probably overexposed on the wings this year, playing with Mort Seider for most of it. And he didn't do great in that space. He's making $3.8 million this year, next year. And it sounds like Steve Yzerman's going to swing for either Steve Stamkos or Jake Gensel or both in free agency. So he needed some money. And the San Jose Sharks need to make the clap floor. The impressive piece of work here is that they got a mid-round second to take Wallman on when there's probably a buyer, someone out there who would take Wallman for free. But it's possible that at $4 million with his year this year, their teams are hesitant or wanted a little bit of retention. And if Greer calls them and says, look, if you're going for Gensel, do you really need that second? I don't think so. So now the Sharks are picking 5 times in the first 2 rounds this year. Yep. Once again, I think Mike Greer's doing a great job.
Yeah, this is, I think, because opinions can really differ about the previous trades Mark Greer has done. I think this is an unequivocal win for him in a way that the previous trades haven't been. In that I think they were wins for him, but the cost of doing them was significant but worth it. This one is you've got a useful player that matches your timeline that you'll be able to use to soak minutes, and you picked up a second round pick. And it sure seems from the reactions that I've seen that a whole lot of folks thought that, yeah, this was a guy that you could have gotten rid of without spending that second rounder. So good for Greer. Mm-hmm. All right.
I do at some point want to talk about Mike Greer because I really think people are sleeping on the work he's done. But go ahead.
The other bit of news of just general hockey news is that they have announced this year's Hall of Fame class, which includes Pavel Datsyuk, Jeremy Roenick, Shea Weber, Natalie Darwitz, and Chrissy Wendell-Pohl, as well as David Poyle as a builder. And I'm sorry, I'm not sure that came out clearly. Let me try again. Also,
no, it came out exactly right.
Colin Campbell, as a builder. Yeah, man. Anytime you get to elect a guy who is maybe most notable, especially among the younger crowd, for being the guy who complained to the referees that his son was getting penalties, you have to elect him to your Hall of Fame.
The face that I made when I heard that Colin Campbell was getting to the Hall of Fame would break a mirror. It's almost like Gary Bettman getting nominated to the Hall of Fame. Just a old boys club, pat each other on the back. We've done a good job, everybody. Just get out of here with that.
It's worse.
I'm gonna push back a little bit.
Please do.
So first of all, Gary Bettman has been in the Hall of Fame for 6 years.
Yes.
Don't forget that. And second of all, I think Colin Campbell has a place for being the only person who's ever truly tried to enforce rules on players for doing absolutely bullshit things. He's the guy who suspended Marty McSorley for a year. He's the guy who suspended Todd Bertuzzi for a year, and actually tried to enforce some discipline in the late 90s, early 2000s, when things were getting absolutely apeshit. And like, I'm not saying that if he was in charge of discipline now, things would be different, because I think a lot of that comes directly from Gary and from PA changes and stuff. But like, he actually tried to get a bunch of this shit out of the game before it was cool. It is fair to say that he is responsible for a portion of the modern success of the NHL, because he chaired the new rules committee that has created the rules system that we mostly still use today. And the rule system that has functionally removed a lot of the slashing and head checking that has allowed players like Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews and, these fast, exciting skaters who don't skate around waiting for Scott Stevens to take their head off. Like, he chaired that committee and was directly responsible for pushing that group in a direction to get that stuff out of the game and open it back up and try to get to more of a high scoring stuff. And it took a generation for some of the stuff to drop away. But yeah, I do legitimately think that it's tough to tell the story of hockey without talking about Colin Campbell. I do believe that they should be forced by law to mention the time that he complained about the treatment of his kid every time he comes up in the Hockey Hall of Fame. It should be on his plaque. They should be in it. Like, they should do an exhibit. They should have a suit. They should have something he wore when he was a Vancouver Canuck losing to the Islanders in the finals in '82. And there should be this thing. They should have a copy of the email that got leaked. But, like, legitimately, I think that you cannot tell the story of hockey without Colin Campbell as a builder. He is an important part of the way the game has grown in the last 20 years. And we would not be talking about the incredible Stanley Cup series that we saw last night, because Connor McDavid would not be able to do the things he did. We wouldn't have seen some of those crazy plays without the rule committee that he chaired. So yeah, like, I'm kind of okay with it.
Yeah, no.
That he's a shit, but he also did some good stuff. And I think that's true of many Hall of Fame members.
Including two more in this class with Roenick and Datsuk.
Speaking of he's a shit.
Yeah. Man, we're really earning our explicit tag this week, aren't we?
Both incredible players who their off the ice escapades have kind of kept them out of the hall for a bit. Roenick really only getting in now that kind of people have he has no longer been in the public eye as a member of the media as much, since he is no longer employed by NBC. And also in this year's class, for the first time in way too long, 2 female players.
Mm-hmm.
So,
which is great to see. I'll admit I don't know a whole lot about either of them, so I don't have much to say. It's just really good to see that women's hockey is getting more of a nod than just the generic one per year.
They really need to open it up more.
Yeah, Darwitz played internationally for 10 years, 72 points in 50 games, including 39 goals. She won 3 women's world championships and, 1 silver medal. She was on the 2022 team. That definitely did not put the flag on the floor, the Canadian flag on the floor of the dressing room. But that's absolutely something. She was on that team that Canada fought that incredible game against. She put up 246 points across her 3 college years. So that's 99 games, 246 points. When she played in the old Western Women's Hockey League, 32 points in 20 games. She was a legitimate star, one of the best players on Team USA, and one of the early motivating factors for women in Minnesota, particularly, to become hockey stars. They're hockey players. And that is cool as hell.
It's also kind of fitting that she gets this after the shenanigans that have gone on with PWHL Minnesota and her dismissal from there. So I feel like that's just a real nice middle finger. Like, hearing that news is just going to be a nice, get up on stage, get your plaque, turn around, take your photos, and then just give a nice little discreet middle finger to the PWHL for how they've handled that. So good for her.
Yep. The other elected player is Chrissy Wendell-Pohl. She was, again, a heck of a hockey player. She played for Team USA with 1 gold in 2005 in World Championships. She was on the silver medal team. But she had an incredible run. 60 points in 30 or 69 points. Nice. In 39 national team games. And 237 points in 101 NCAA games. So clearly some focus on high scoring college players. And again, someone who the current generation looked up to when they were young. So like the backlog for women's players is massive right now. But these are two deserving players, and it's nice to see them put in two.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to the men this year, though, it feels like there was really only one clear-cut case, I think, with Pavel Datsyuk.
That was not clear-cut.
Yeah, and it's a stretch. Like, Hronek's been around for Whiting for a while, and they just kind of picked, like, all right, who's highest score, who's not on here? All right, I guess it's you, JR.
Who did I play with in San Jose?
Weber is an interesting pick.
Oh, we all knew he was getting in.
I know. Yeah. But that's the thing is, like, how do you make the case for him? But he's probably a defenseman that maybe deserved a Norris, but just kept playing in eras where someone was constantly better.
He was like within 2 points twice of winning a Norris. Yeah. He's the second highest scoring defenseman of the post-lockout era so far. And, he hauled two teams that did not deserve to go to the finals.
Two?
Nashville and Montreal.
Yeah.
No, he got traded to Montreal when Nashville went to the final. That was Subban.
Yeah, Nashville was post-Subban trade.
Okay, so was he really on there for that long? Sure. Yeah. He hauled the Montreal team to the finals. Didn't deserve to be there. I will
say, though, it is very funny that Shea Weber goes to the Hall of Fame because this now means that an active contract on the Utah Hockey Club is now a Hall of Famer.
This is not the first time. Chris Pronger.
Yep.
Chris Pronger was working for the league and had a contract from the Flyers when he went into the Hall of Fame.
This is a team that has not yet played a game.
Playing for the Coyotes at the time.
Yes. Oh, that's right. That's right. The Flyers have traded him already.
And and then the last guy is David Poile, who he was GM for a real long time, won a lot of games, lost a lot of games. Good for him.
Put together a lot of Team USA hockey teams that have done really well as well. Yeah,
I was surprised he wasn't in already, to be honest.
Well, also, I mean, think about it. Nashville was maybe the first of the Southern Belt teams to really build a fan base, and he was like the first GM there.
Yeah.
So I think that's worth something.
Yeah, he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Congratulations,
he was
David
their
Boyle.
only GM up until last year. So
I just want to say congratulations, Pavel Datsyuk and Shea Weber, but not Jeremy Roenick. Jeremy Roenick's a piece of crap.
I'm probably not.
Well, that's kind of a piece of crap too.
Yeah,
I have no idea. What's he a piece of crap for? What did he do?
Oh God.
Hold on, are we talking Datsyuk?
Supporter.
Didn't he go off like a religious
fanatic?
Yeah, I was going to say, didn't he go off like a religious deep end?
Look. Every Russian except for like 2 is a Putin supporter.
Yeah, but they're not all like right-wing anti-LGBT people.
Most of them.
Or if they are, they keep their mouth shut about it unless they're what's his name from them?
But he's only
Blood Jackets.
He hasn't talked about it in North America. He was only doing that in Russia, right? Yeah.
The specific weirdness with Datsyuk is less the Russianness of it and more that he kind of post-retirement, he spent a few years in a pretty notorious religious compound. Like locked himself in there for a couple of years. It's just weird and unpleasant. But yeah, if you want congratulations, him, go for it.
A hell of a hockey player. I don't think Jeremy Roenick was that special.
Yes. So last week we started our lightning round of what teams should do with the offseason and immediately got made fools of.
I just want to say the only prediction we got right was SJ getting right that Connor McDavid would win the Conn Smythe but lose the Stanley Cup. Congratulations to SJ, the only smart one.
So, off-season teams needs lightning round. We are going to do this lightning. And by that, I mean, you guys have 3 sentences max. I will cut you off. Let's go.
Let's fucking go.
We are going to do this from the south up. So, starting with your Stanley Cup champion, Florida Panthers.
Resign Reinhart, run it back.
Yep. John?
I got Sam Reinhart and maybe Brandon Montour.
All right. Moving on to the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Cheap forward depth.
Say goodbye to Stamkos and prepare to be bad.
I hope you can find some flexibility. because I have no idea where you will. All right. After that, we go to Rayleigh with the Carolina Hurricanes.
Nothing. Run it back.
You got to get some value if it's true that Slavin wants out. But yeah, you got to run this back and try to re-sign Jake Gensel.
Yep.
Try to actually win multiple games in the second round or the third round of the playoffs.
No, don't do that.
It sure seems like this offseason they're going through yet another round of trading good players, but they keep doing that and they keep finding more. So who's to say? After that, Washington Capitals.
Pierre-Luc Dubois apparently is what they needed.
Pass puck to point, score goal, break Wayne Gretzky record.
All right. Philadelphia Flyers.
There's no helping the Flyers in the short term. Just keep getting younger. Also, they should send me a cheesesteak. I'd really love one.
Congratulations on bringing in Michkov. I wonder how he's going to handle John Tortorella.
Sure seems like Briere's made some good moves when it comes to the rebuilding part. Let's hope he can keep doing it.
Oh, sorry. There is one more thing. Find a goalie.
All right. Columbus Blue Jackets.
They already got what they needed most, a new GM.
They have very little draft capital. They have not much in the way of players coming in other than what they're going to draft in the first round. But Don Waddell's a smart guy, and I bet you he's going to start figuring it out.
Yeah, no.
Just ride it out. It'll stop hurting in a couple of years.
Cap-friendly page is brutal. Okay.
Pittsburgh Penguins. I would say that over the offseason, try to trade some of your long-term wingers so that you can accrue more draft capital because, well, I don't think you should be trying this year.
The Penguins, this is a lightning round. There's not enough time for this.
You know, Alex, the Florida Panthers won 11 straight years without making the playoffs, 24 without a playoff win. So I am really excited for you and the other Penguins fans in 2048 when you win your next round, because you are in for a long, dark future.
Yep. All right. New Jersey Devils.
They need better team doctors or better luck.
Hope for good Jacob Markstrom, not bad Jacob Markstrom, and make sure to rest him every 3 games.
Split the season, 42 games Markstrom, 40 games Jake Allen, so Montreal gets the second round pick. And you save Markstrom for the playoffs because these guys could go wild. I think Keefe's what they need.
All right. New York Rangers.
They need to trade Vincent Trocheck because I like Trocheck and I hate the Rangers.
They can't keep paying Jacob Trouba to be an $8 million third pairing defenseman. Other than that, you kind of got to run it back, even though everybody's getting old.
But
also, Capo Caco sucks.
But the intangibles, and by intangibles, I mean elbows.
Headshots.
Jacob Trouba lawn darting himself into the glass. Greatest moment of the playoff.
100%.
It sure seems like Lafreniere is working out after a rough start. But yeah, you have to kind of run it back.
Okay.
After Rangers, we're going to go ahead to the New York Islanders.
Get them a new GM already.
Yeah. Lou needs to go.
I don't know what they can do with this roster, but I know Patrick Waugh is gonna squeeze every ounce out of them.
They're kind of forced into staying the course because, well, Lou has not set them up for flexibility.
They only have $5.8 million next year.
Oof.
That's bad.
Let's go with Boston.
Jeremy Swayman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Enjoy having to ride the one goalie and then hope Korpisalo can be fine. Other than that, you're kind of set.
You need a center. You need to go. You almost certainly need to go bring Elias Lindholm to be 2C for this team. If you can get a center, especially someone who clicks with Pasternak or Marchand, and you can push Korpisalo to league average goaltending with your defense, there's no reason Boston can't go deep next year.
I have nothing to add. The Detroit Red Wings.
They need to send Elliot Friedman a pronunciation guide so he can learn how to say Detroit.
I am extremely confident that Elliot Friedman knows how to say Detroit. He just likes his little bits.
He Bob Cole's it. You don't tell Bob Cole how to say Detroit.
Man, you guys wrecking my joke.
I'm blown.
I kind of think that Yzerman just needs to make better decisions.
Alex, you've been mispronouncing things all night, so I'm not sure.
That's a real good deep cut right there.
Never pronounce anything right. Ever.
Correct.
I just bull on through it.
This roster, like, they've got pieces, but holy crap, can you believe that they're spending $15 million on Cop, Comfer, and Sherratt next year? Not to mention 2.3 more for Petrie.
Yeah. What Detroit needs to do is sign a free agent who's actually good.
All right. The Buffalo Sabres.
The Sabres need a plan because they ain't got one. And they haven't had one.
Same as every year. Make a summoning circle and hope and pray.
Try to sign a better free agent than Eric Johnson this year. Other than that, I think you just bring up the kids. Bring them all up.
Yep.
Bring up Rosen. Bring up Savoy. I don't know. Bring up Jerry Kulich. Bring up Noah Ostlund. Bring them all up. Let the kids go. And just tell them they get to come play with your old dog, Lindy Ruff.
Toronto.
Trade Mitch Marner.
Yeah.
You have to win a Mitch Marner trade. And if it's true that Utah is the top team interested, that means you need to bring back Clayton Keller or Nick Schmaltz and another player. And ideally, you want Sean Dursey if you can get him.
Man,
and Karol Vejmelka.
I don't think Utah goes for that. I certainly wouldn't. All right, Ottawa.
Well, they got the goaltending already, which is what I would have said. So, I don't know, defensive depth.
Players who actually want to play for them.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Figure out Chychrun. If he's going to go, you got to move him at the draft. And bring in a defender. But yeah, I think you have to run it back and give your new coach a chance to try to unlock Tim Swetzla and Brady Tkachuk and try to get those guys that are supposed to go to the next level to that level. If you can do that, the Sens are going to be fine. If you can't, they're fucked. There's no way around it.
Finally, Montreal.
Pass.
Embrace the tank.
It is the year to bring up all those young defensemen, get them rolling and going. And it is the year to get rid of the rest of the bad contracts. Montreal still has quite a few. They're starting to expire, so let's get them out of here. And yeah, draft it. You have to draft a forward or figure out a way to get a great forward this year in the draft, because it's the one thing Montreal is going to be missing. I think next year is the year you start playing free agency.
All right.
But I wouldn't call it a tank this year.
Double checking to make sure I said everyone. And we're good. We have lightning round the Eastern Conference much more efficiently than we did the Western Conference.
Yay. Hopefully much more rightly.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for checking in to the Neutral Zone Hotel, which you have been listening to. The Neutral Zone Hotel has written, hosted, and produced by the Neutral Zone Hotel crew. You can find out more at neutralzonehotel.com. Emily Mowbray designed our fabulous logo. You can follow us on Instagram or Blue Sky at Neutral Zone Hotel, all one word. You can join our Discord at neutralzonehotel.com/Discord. If you like this episode, please rate us 5 stars on your podcast platform of choice. And once again, thank you all for staying and listening. And finally,
let's go.
congratulations to Evan Rodriguez for becoming the Stanley Cup's first Evan.
Woo!
Go
Gotta
Cats,
go
go.
Cats.